One of the best roles you've ever had and why?
I'm still in it and doing it after 30 years. And that makes me feel very happy. I think what's important about that is that digital inclusion is still a big priority. That's also a little bit sad and a bit of a problem because in 30 years, we've still got basically the same problem we had when I started all that time ago in London on my bicycle. But things have changed hugely in terms of technology itself, and also the understanding of the imperative and urgency around the agenda. And I think the opportunities for creativity and partnership work, they probably get more interesting and exciting year by year. So that's a good thing.
What's one decision you've made that helped align your work with your own values?
All my work has been aligned with my personal values, really, honestly, because it's about fundamentally everybody's right to participation, which I think is what digital really is at its essence. I think in business terms, one of the key decisions I made maybe 15 years ago or so was that a product-based approach to digital inclusion would help the scale issue and delivery issue, because digital exclusion is such a massive, persistent, big problem that the only model that really works in terms of tackling it is through trusted intermediaries or digital champions, people who can get to people. And if you peel back from that, the best thing you can probably do as a business is to support the intermediaries to reach the people at the end of the chain. And I made the decision that creating some products and services for those intermediaries was the right targeted way to approach our work. And since then, everything has flowed through that decision. And I think that was a very good decision. Basically, it's helped structure our approach, and it's helped us being very clear about our offer. And the digital inclusion ecosystem is full of people doing great things and different things and complementary things. And it allows us at Digital Unite to work with a range of those organizations and people. So we have done something that allows us to be sort of truly collaborative, I think, and agnostic about our intermediary audience, by which I mean you could be a social housing provider, you could be a bank, you could be a council. I don't care who you are welcome. If you've got people who interact with the general public, with customers or service users, you have the opportunity to be digital champions and a force for good. And we can help you maximize your potential to do that work.
What do you think are the challenges and opportunities of describing digital inclusion through the lens of social impact?
It is maybe reframing of digital inclusion as social impact. I think this is relatively new. In the context of my 30 years, certainly we weren't talking about this explicitly 30 years ago. What it has done, from my perspective, is opened, especially corporate eyes, I think, to the potential impact and influence they have if they consider the social impact of digital inclusion. And that is a bit of a game changer in terms of them then realizing, oh, actually, we can do something about this. We can contribute to this because we understand the value of social impact. We're committed to social impact. That's what we want to stand up and be counted for. Oh, I can do digital inclusion as a form of social impact. From my perspective, that's a massive enabler in terms of promoting the agenda. So I think it's a big, big opportunity. a big opportunity, and we've done quite a lot of excuse me, work around that, in particular with our partners of Capgemini, who have been really not just kind of visionary, but consistent and strategic about a whole organizational commitment and gathering round that as a core principle. And that has been fantastic. And I think I can see that unfolding across sectors, and I'm very interested in that and excited by it. I think the challenge, as with many things, is going to be around the consistency of reporting and how we measure that impact, because we've got a lot of people doing it in slightly different ways. And then we've got the whole framework around social value commitments themselves, which I think are currently slightly naive and under-specced in relation to digital inclusion impact, but that is the next opportunity. So how can we, through our practice and what we're doing daily, in concert with these enlightened corporates, actually influence that? I think that's the next big opportunity and challenge.
Can you share some key milestones or proudest moments in your career?
Proudest moments and key milestones in my career would include making the Digital Champions Network and our second digital inclusion training product, Inspire. I've already talked about my personal belief that a product-based approach to digital inclusion is a massive enabler, and we made that leap, and it really was quite a leap. And there have been many small leaps since, but I think it was a foresighted decision. So I'm quite proud of that. I am proud of getting an OBE in 2012. I know that there are a lot of issues and debates around the honour system. Despite this, it's always nice being given a gold star. I mean, I would be dishonest if I said it wasn't. And I think from a personal angle, taking my mum and dad to Buckingham Palace was a really big thing, and probably the point at which they understood what I did for a living. So that was quite funny. And actually, 2026 is a pretty proud moment for me in general, because Digital Unite is 30 years old, and that's a lot of water under a bridge. That's a lot of digital inclusion. That's also a lot of people who have supported me along the way. I didn't make this all happen through magical thinking. I've had people around me who supported me with their attitude and their encouragement, just not only doing their jobs. So I feel very proud and lucky of that. I've had my own digital inclusion ecosystem, I think, and I'm very grateful to those people, and I'm very grateful to still be able to make those connections and have people interested in the work we do. And one of the things that continues to drive me is new people coming into this area with new ideas and fresh sight. One of the challenges of working on something for 30 years can be that you feel you've seen it all before and it's slightly Groundhog Day. I definitely have those moments, but I have more moments of, hey, let's give it a go. What do you think about this? Could we work together? I'm super keen. It's a real principle of mine. and of Digital Unites. We are a very collaborative organisation, and I think that word is possibly slightly overused at times, but I really mean that. You can't have great impact unless you work like that, I don't think.
What's one project or piece of work that taught you a big lesson about impact, and what did you take from it?
That's a tricky one, because a lot of the people we work with, we work for, in the public sector especially, they amaze me with their creativity, their tenacity in terms of driving digital inclusion on the ground. We recently did a co-development project with some public sector friends, really, on our Inspire training platform. So we produced a version of Inspire for public sector specifically, and we brought a group of 5 organizations together to work through a persona-based approach to that. So if you're running this training in your council, who are the stakeholders you need to influence? Who do you need to bring onto that training? What are the key messages for them? What floats their boat? How do you engage with them? And going through that process with those 5 organizations was really brilliant, because they brought their knowledge of the front line to our knowledge of training development, and the combination of that was super powerful. And Inspire Public Sector is the course that came out of that. And the data, because there's impact measurement tools built into Inspire, the data about behavior change as a result of that training, we can look at that broken down by roles, so we can see how it's impacting leaders, customer-facing teams, etc. It's absolutely fascinating, and it's gold in terms of what it tells us about how we develop this sort of information and resource with the right hooks, with the right examples, and it gives the public sector users of Inspire brilliant data about where they need to go in the organization to convert or engage the next team. So that was a brilliant process, one I would like to keep repeating, because that, in order to keep these things current, you need to keep working in that way. But I think that was a very good example of collaboration in terms of understanding what we wanted that impact to look like, and how we were going to measure it, and how we were going to understand how to influence the factors that lead to impact being delivered.
What's a piece of strategic advice you found yourself giving more than once?
But the question I ask a lot of people, in a variety of contexts, actually, now I think about it, is what is it you're trying to achieve? Because unless you're really clear about that, you cannot make the decisions in the right order that will lead to you achieving it, okay? So it doesn't matter if it's a purchasing decision, an ops decision, a strategic thinking or planning decision. And I think people often think this has to be quite a complicated, nuanced answer with nice fancy words in it. It doesn't have to be that. It can also, and possibly should be, quite emotionally driven. You know, I want to achieve equity and participation for people using digital. That's kind of like, it's almost slightly amorphous, but I know what I want to get to, and if I work back from that, I think about the tangible things I can do to make that happen. I think people can get too caught up in the thing in front of them, which is methodology, operational, delivery design, and forget they need to always have in mind that thing that's shining. What's the light you're walking towards, really? I think it also would help people to declutter the bits that are slightly distracting or not relevant, and that is always useful.
What's one learning from delivering work at scale you think others should know?
Do not apply wishful thinking to time to scale, because to do something at scale, you need a ramp up, a period of sustained activity, and an idea of, if there is one, the ramp back down. And if you do not bookmark a big scale project like that, you will get in a big old mess. So I think that's probably one of the things I have learned. And this does touch on something which is a big, big bugbear of mine, which is structural, I think, and systemic, and has contributed to the problem we still have with digital exclusion, which is a project-based mindset, and therefore project-based funding streams for something that is a structural problem. So that is what digital exclusion is. It's systemic, it's structural, it's driven by a number of factors, and it is variable. So someone who is digitally included can become digitally excluded. It's not necessarily something that should be assumed as a constant. If we continue to treat it as a project, and if funding follows project-based cycles, we are really creating a sort of ecosystem of bits rather than anything that's joined up and sustainable properly over time. So this thinking was bubbling up 30 years ago. No one was thinking, there wasn't even a thing called digital exclusion. We were just trying to plug modems in under desks with too many wires. But things have changed, and we now collectively understand this. The government understands this. But it's a bit like having an education system, or having a power grid, or having a water supply. You're not going to just run it for 2 months a year. It has to be a continuum. And if it's a continuum, it cannot be funded piecemeal. And we can't be making decisions and policies in a piecemeal way. We can be responsive and agile, and we can, by keeping our finger on the pulse, identify areas which are needing particular support or remedy, new things that are popping up, learnings we have about working with specific groups or in specific geographies, all that stuff. That is that's an ongoing thing, built on the assumption that the need and requirement will always be there. And that's the thing that 30 years later, I am still a little bit, we need to change the lens on this, because we do not have a way of thinking about the remedy and the support structures in a sensible way if we continue to apply a project-based attitude to it.
Who or what inspires your approach to creating impact through your work?
So I am inspired by the capacity of the everyday citizen, and the person who can be an advocate and a supporter, who resides in all of us. I think we are untapped potential in all sorts of ways. And in relation to this agenda, this is the thing I'm trying to get to in the work we're doing. It doesn't matter where you work or what your job is. You don't need to have a job. It doesn't matter at what stage of life you're at. If you are a little bit ahead of someone else with your digital devices or your confidence and skills, you can help someone else. And if we can formalize that and we can recognize, reward, and celebrate it, because that's also really important, we can create a much more vibrant culture of, I suppose, playing it forward, right? In relation to this topic in particular, it's the potential in every organization and every person that really inspires me. And I will continue to work to find the ways to engage and inspire others to believe that, to see that, to have that light bulb moment, which happens so often through the work we do, which is, oh yeah, now I get it. If you don't have that, you can't do this. Oh, I could help someone with that. It can be highly informal and it can be more formal, but the principle is the same. I don't think there's some mythical figure that holds the key to all our impact problems. We all have that within us, and I think galvanizing and resourcing and supporting people in the service of that is the thing to be doing. So
what is the thing that brings you the most work joy?
It's getting the feedback from the people we work with and for that we have helped them make a difference, and that feedback lights up our working days, because that is what we're working to do. And we feel proud, and we feel the joy. And also, I would say, not just in respect of what we've achieved, but also getting that back as a team, because everyone holds a little different piece of the endeavor at Digital Unite. Obviously, people have different roles. But when we come together and collectively get that recognition back, that's the stuff that keeps us working, basically.
What's your favourite quote that you'd like us to include, and why?
I think the thing I probably say most often to people in all sorts of contexts is what goes around comes around. And this might sound strange, but I think the thing about it, why it resonates with me, is it's about not sort of giving up in putting out what you think you can and is the right thing to do, because you will get it back at some point over time. And because in a world which feels tricky and where our personal impact feels minuscule at times in relation to huge problems and challenges we have, I feel really strongly that we mustn't lose the hope of our own potential and the impact we can make if we keep putting ourselves out there. And no matter what is happening around you that you cannot control, you still have agency and potential. And on some days, on many days, you might feel that is a rather empty promise, because you can't quite see any difference that is making, and nothing is coming back to you. But that little phrase calls on me to keep doing it, and that if I do those things in good faith for the right reasons, I am putting something into the world that is the right sort of thing to put into the world. I don't know if that makes sense, or I'm being entirely coherent, but that is the sentiment. Don't stop just because you're not getting anything back immediately. You know, follow that North Star, keep going.